thank you for coming out this afternoon. It looks like a great crowd. It was a little louder than last night, but that's okay. We're a little civilized. I would just like to let you know that I am retired, and you are well aware that you are trying to do to me and to my pension what you're doing is illegal and wrong. I want you to abide by the law just as you expect me to. I have an employee contract with you, and breaking it is illegal. We will not stand for this, and we will not forget.
Why are we here? This is a public organization. What are these people doing? Pardon me? That would be a good idea. How many people brought canes and walkers here that think it's threatening the
Go to the mic and also go to the mic right behind you.
Police officers want to hear, or a bunch of seniors. So many of us that serve time, why would these fellows be in at a public meeting?
Step outside if you don't mind.
My question is, first of all, Mr. Ferguson, I noticed that you quoted Jim Leach from Ontario. I also note that in Ontario, the recent changes made to their pension plans do not touch retirees. So my question is, has there been a study that involves going forward without touching what exists today for retirees? In other words, to honor the contract as signed.
I'll answer this question in two parts, if I may, because the same question came up before. The first part is, if you want a guarantee that is not dependent on future governments having to make more money.
Could you stand up, please?
Stand up.
If you want a guarantee that is not dependent on future governments making decisions around funding, we're going to the basis that I talked about earlier, the $5.5 billion, that includes all active members. If you look only at retirees, it's about half of that amount, or say $2.5 million plus. Now, we were also asked to model the shared risk program to include a form of guarantee for retirees, and the minister yesterday said that we would be asked to do that as a calculation.
In that case, you're saying that calculation has not been done?
The second calculation that I've described has not been done. The first one has been. If you want a guarantee with the money invested in high secure investments that are not influenced by future needs of extra money, it's $2.5 billion deposit today. If you want to blend it into an SRP, or retiree would be a special category of individuals that would have a guarantee and the others not, then that has to be modeled, and we have not done that yet. We were asked to do it at one of the sessions yesterday, and we committed to do it.
In terms of going forward, you've spoken about how the plan would now be run by a board of trustees. Costs, have they been looked at? Because what I understand is today, our plan is very well run at a very low cost. You mentioned that Ontario is run by such a type of plan, yet their costs are approximately 10 times ours per capita, I believe.
So there will be no
reason to change our current investment management group. So NBINC that currently manages the funds worth about $10 billion, there's no reason for that not to continue. They have done a fine job, and they have the management ratio is certainly less than we've seen in other jurisdictions. So there's no reason for that to change. The Board of Trustees that would be put in place as part of a requirement under a program like this is not unique to other pension plans, but it would be a small factor in the cost of the pension plan. It doesn't change the management of the plan in terms of how it's invested, who invested. It's just an oversight, and an oversight board that has a very vested interest in seeing that plan perform as well as it possibly can.
My comments and questions, I guess, are for the Minister of Finance. And the first thing I want to comment is the whole issue of communications and collaboration. The Minister come here today. The first thing he did was to apologize to us for not communicating and messing up on the communications plans. To me, that's not acceptable. I think that this whole thing was, I don't think we were intended to be consulted, and there was no collaboration. The Premier at the Pension Summit in February talked about unprecedented collaboration with unions. Do you know who the unions are? I know who they are. It wasn't the PSSA, and there was no mention at that summit about the retiree whatsoever. The retirees have completely been left out, and my opinion is it was done by design and not messed up. And the communications, to say today we're sorry because we messed up on the communications, to me is not acceptable. I want to just read maybe just an excerpt, Mr. Minister, and see whether or not you recognize it. And I quote, "As I was faced with new challenges throughout my career, I have learned new skills of collaboration, cooperation, engagement, fact-based knowledge, and negotiation, all necessary to get the job done. I cherish most the attribute of integrity, honesty, and doing the right thing. My greatest compliment is recognition of fairness and honesty. All successful negotiations must be mutually beneficial." Those comments were by Wayne Gates, May 6, 2010, at his nomination speech. And I'm just wondering, where is that gone? I don't see it.
You're absolutely right. Those are my statements, and I stand behind them today. I have not been involved in this process to this level, up to this point. I am embarrassed to be in this position at this time, where the discussions have not been held to as they should have been. That's why my opening words were apologetic. In the case of the other unions and how that process unfolded, there were retirees involved, but involved through the active member negotiating team. And the differences were that those pension plans were very much immediately at risk, and the need for a solution immediately was inevitable. This situation is one that has been overfunded or funded to its current levels to this point, but it allows us an opportunity to fix it for the future. And it can't continue as it is, but it wasn't in the same state of crisis as those ones previously. But it is in a state of crisis for going forward, and it is a situation that we can decide we'll leave it for the next generation, or do we fulfill the obligation on this generation to make it better for the next generation. And if we don't look at it as a shared model of some capacity, then what it means is we are downloading this cost of this pension on the current and active employees, and on the full range of taxpayers in this province. So, we can blame the government for a lot of falsehoods, and we deserve that. But what we're trying to bridge here is the gap that we currently have, but how we fix the solution together. This is not a done deal. This is a deal that thus far has been done poorly, and we're trying to correct it.
Mr. Minister, my name is Ida Beck. I retired from the public service in 1985 as Deputy Secretary of Cabinet for Economic Policy and Economic Affairs. I have two questions, sir. The first one is, would you like to comment on my colleague's letter this morning, or article this morning, in the Telegraph Journal, making reference to Toronto-based administrators that would charge factors of 10 or more for administrative pension plan that is very well administered in Brunswick? My second question is partly to Mr. Ferguson and partly to you, sir. I have the Sobeco actuarial reports of 2003, 2005, 2002, 2005, and 2008. Trying to get the one for 2011 is impossible because the legislative library doesn't have it. I'm told that the department is withholding that report because the report hasn't been read. Is the 2011 Monroe report, which Sobeco doesn't no longer appear somewhere. So, Mr. Ferguson, were you the author of the 2008 report? Mr. Ferguson, were you the author of the 2008 report, 2005 report, or 2002 report?
Yes.
Well, what happened between 2008 and 2011? Because this report does not back your comments today.
I'll tell you what I will confirm from this session is the report has been written. I will confirm when it will be released, and I can get back to this group or whomever the gentleman was to confirm the exact time. I'll confirm that with you.
Yeah, either back, that's what the coalition.
All right. Yes, I'll come back to you on that. In fact, maybe we can find it while we're here.
What about my second question?
All right, the second question regarding to investment managers. Correct?
No, your comment on Mr. McKinnon's comment this morning was my first question.
Yes.
My second question is Mr. Ferguson was he involved in writing the previous Monroe reports? And if he is, what is so different in the 2011 report that changed from 2008? Because the change between the two reports does not support his comments today.
So I think what we can both say on that is in relation to the report, what we have seen here is that, and what was shown on the slides, is that the government has continued to overfund or make a pop up into the plan. So we are currently doing that at the rate of above the rate of 2.5 times that of the employer. So that is what the government has been doing to keep this fund afloat. And in addition to that, there's special contributions that have been made. So the peerage reports would show that, some more, some less, depending on where the market was in the given year. But the average, as you have seen there, and as was shown on the slide, the number over the last 10, 20 years totals in the billions of increased contribution. So what the process we're trying to unfold here is to say, what is fair to the employees, what is fair to the employers, which are the citizens of the province, all of the taxpayers in the province. How do we get to a position where we fund a pension that is reasonable, reliable, and equitable and fair to all concerned? And right today, a funding model that sees a 2.5 times contribution is not fair to all the taxpayers in this province, including yourself.
I hate to be a pessimist, but you still haven't answered my first question. You comment on Bernie McKinnon's letter this morning in the Telegraph Journal. I assume you read it.
So I didn't read it. So what was the issue with that? You're talking about the fees from any other fund? So that's what I started with.
No. The comment was being transferred to
No.
Toronto-based.
There are no plans to do that. None. I answered a question earlier about a gentleman talking about NB and the benefits they have shown to date and the performance they've shown to date. This model has nothing in it that would suggest any change to NBIMC's ability to manage the fund, other than the governance of the fund, which is a trustee board. And that has yet to be determined who would be on that board. But the fund can be managed the very same way they are today.
Why would one of my former colleagues, who was secretary of the board, who was the first president of NBIMC, who've gone through a lot of this stuff? I went through the 1984 budget, the 1983 budget, the 1985 budget. The problem was just as severe. The uncertainty was even more serious. Contracts were not broken. So why today I cannot get an answer straight about when will this bloody Monroe report be tabled?
No, well, I just said that I will confirm that and give you the time and exact time when it will be tabled.
Thank you.
Is my number one.
Jacques Verge, retraité de l'enseignement. J'ai commencé à enseigner en 1974 et je pense que c'est la 9e présentation que je vois de M. Ferguson. 8 dans son autre vie, alors qu'il travaillait au gouvernement. J'étais au niveau de la Fédération des enseignants et à chaque fois qu'on avait une présentation et qu'on nous disait que notre fonds était capitalisé à 78, 80, 84, 85, ça a été jusqu'à 103, il n'y avait aucun problème. Maintenant, il y a des problèmes. Mais je vais vous dire, c'est quoi le problème? Le problème, c'est le gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick. Vous devez faire des changements parce que vous n'avez pas les revenus nécessaires. C'est pas plus compliqué que ça. Il y a d'autres solutions que selon. Le Québec en a annoncé une hier soir, qui me semble beaucoup plus logique. C'est rare que je dise ça du Québec, là, mais qui me semble beaucoup plus logique que la vôtre. Vous n'avez pas regardé toutes les alternatives. Maintenant, M. Ferguson, si on dit comme à Radio-Canada, si la tendance se maintient, si on regarde le plan actuel, dans les 5 ou 10 prochaines années, quelle serait la contribution du gouvernement? Et quelle serait la contribution du gouvernement sur ce plan inacceptable? Vous devez avoir fait ça. Un actuaire, ça fait ça.
Les cotisations totales qui iraient dans la caisse de la fonction publique, totale. Laissez-moi répondre à la question complètement, s'il vous plaît.
Autant que vous répondez à la question.
Oui, à la question. Les cotisations totales ne changeraient pas. Par contre, il y a deux choses qui changent dans la vie de la fonction publique, qui sauvent, qui réduit le taux de cotisation de la province et qui augmente le financement de la partie de la caisse qui est pour les retraités. Deux choses. Les cotisations sont les mêmes. Les employés vont payer plus. Alors la province va payer moins. Oui, effectivement, j'ai dit que je donnais des faits. C'est ce que je fais. Deuxièmement, parce que les prestations des participants actifs vont être basées sur une retraite à 65 ans pour le service futur, ça coûte moins cher qu'une retraite à 60 ans. Ces sommes-là vont pour améliorer la sécurité et bâtir les réserves pour donner une indexation. Alors, c'est ça les changements. Mais l'argent total qui rentre à la caisse est sensiblement la même.
Ce que vous me dites, c'est que les contributions spéciales seront plus basses pour le gouvernement. Je ne veux pas parler des contributions de l'employeur. L'employeur, il y a un contrat respecté. La garantie supplémentaire, elle vient du gouvernement.
Mettons ça comme ça, OK? Dans le régime actuel, les cotisations du gouvernement peuvent varier de 0, quand il y a des gros surplus, à environ 16% de la masse salariale aujourd'hui. OK? Je crois que les chiffres ne sont pas totalement finalisés. Les cotisations du gouvernement sont permanentes. En d'autres mots, ils ne varient pas de 0 à 16, ils vont être de l'ordre de 10%, ou même plus que 10%, 11% et un peu plus. Alors, au lieu de payer de 0 à 15, tu payes de 10 à 11% tout le temps. C'est, dans le temps, ça vient à la même somme d'argent, quoique la réduction, parce que l'égalisation des participants, le partage du régime change pour l'avenir.
Pourquoi changer?
J'ai pas encore reçu ma réponse. Je vais tenter une troisième fois. Est-ce que le plan proposé est un moyen pour sauver l'argent au gouvernement, pas comme employeur?
Obviously, this is one of the structural deficit problems that we have, the liability around the guaranteed pension plan. It is one our creditors look at and say, what are you going to do about that? It's one that is looked at across this country with pensions that are in trouble. And in any situation where it's a guarantee from the government, it becomes a liability of the government. It definitely has an impact on our bottom line. The ability to fund it as a normal plan would be funded and not guarantee that all taxpayers fund a pension plan, which many, let's say 60% or plus of the residents of the province themselves do not have one. At twice, over twice, the contribution level of the employee is not one that would be considered as fair and equitable. So we're trying to find a roadmap through that. One, for fair and equity between all taxpayers. Two, to help improve the structural deficit of this province. And the other, to ensure the security of the plan on a go-forward basis.
J'ai pas encore eu de réponse. Est-ce que ça va vous sauver de l'argent? Vous, le bon Dieu, c'est clair?
Ultimately, yes.
Bon. La vérité ne coûte pas cher. La vérité ne coûte pas cher. Je vais faire un dernier commentaire puis laisser la chance aux autres. Il y a une chose que je me souviens de la présentation de M. Ferguson. Je vais la lire en français. L'objectif est de gérer les incertitudes futures. Vous en avez une la prochaine élection.
And it's always been the reason that this province continues to get deeper and deeper in the hole. You know, we can talk about this, and we can say, you know, you promised me this, and I'll promise you that, or I'll vote for you because you promised me more. Now, right now, we're all talking about a new highway to Route 11, and this province can't afford that. We can't afford the one to Route 1, and that shouldn't have been done. But we'll keep digging this hole deeper, because we're going to bounce back and forth to anyone that dares address the real issues in this province. Now, you know, for me and for my colleagues, we didn't join this to just have the province continue spiraling down this hole. We joined it to say, can we start to recover? And right now, we are on a cusp of recovery. But we can do it independently. I go across this province, and I hear people say, you know, you need to fix it, but no, I'm sorry, I can't help. Well, we're trying to find a solution where we all help. Every one of us take a piece of this. So we want to work through a solution, and we need your help. And we want to be fair. And we know we're behind the eight ball in our communications, but we need your help to find a solution so this problem gets fixed. I met this morning with Standards & Poor's before I came here, and they asked a very specific question. Are you going to fix this pension program? You have a problem in this province. This is a problem across this country. Are you going to fix it? And I said, well, if you already arrived last night, I said, if you were watching the news, you'll know that we're actively in pursuit of a program. And so it's real. It's not something we just push off. It's real. But if we don't want to kick the can down the road, we need you. Thank you.
Where are you from? Where are we from?
Mr. Minister, Mr. Minister, with all due respect, I have a question, very brief, first question, and the second
The situation with a contract is we obviously want to honor any contract. That would be first and foremost. So let's put that, make it clear. What we have here is a change in the conditions in order for our ability to support the original intent of that pension plan. In other words, the funding model, the longevity model, the conditions of our ability to pay for this have changed dramatically. And so when we look at this, and when our actuaries look at it, when it's looked at from the task force understanding what do we do here, it was, okay, things have changed. And I mentioned at the beginning about this year in our third quarter report, where we were hitting another $53 million just because conditions have changed. No other reason.
What did the lawyers tell you?
Our indications are, you know, we haven't gone to that point. Our indications are we have an obligation. If we need to pursue further, we're within our right to do so. That is not our intent.
My second part of the observation, part of your question. If you are able, as a minister, and mind you, with all due respect to you, to change the law, to change the pension, change the law, you establishing a marvelous precedent for yourself and for other government to come in and say, look, we can't change that, we can't change this. The minister, the previous government did it, or the present government did it, so we did the big thing. Now what prevents us from changing that, changing that? What, you know, you talk about guarantee, Mr. Ferguson, and I respect that, but at the same time, the precedent they're establishing, you're opening the door for yourself and for future government to do whatever they want with us.
I guess if I was to comment, government are under a continual obligation to look at conditions, to look at, we're working on laws and legislation every day for improving the province, to ensuring the province can continue. That is part of what we have to do.
Does that mean you break contracts
so
every
when
day?
we look at this situation, we have to look at it in the same vein. How do we fix this going forward? What we're doing now is let's develop a solution.
To follow up on the last discussion, there's a case court, Quinn versus Brunswick, and also there's a Dago case that has come up. When a person retired, there's a term called crystallization, or vested benefit they have a plan becomes firm. Now, there's a number of ways for a government to expropriate a vested interest, and it's called legislation. I see you have here proposed, but there was under Bill 63, which amended the Pensions Act, it's retroactive to July 2012. Now, I want to thank all the MLAs that are here for letting us aware of that. They certainly voted on that, and that is not misinformation, that's disinformation. You also have Bill 20, and it's also an act to amend the pension. By the way, Bill 63 was ascended in December, I believe. Now, what we have here is expropriation by legislation, and that's how you break contract. Because the government can legislate benefits out of you. And when you do that, you're showing the bad example to the next governments, and also you're helping corporations to do the same to their beneficiaries. The CN Pension Fund was itself a state. What they do, they put people represented on the trustee board, and also the retirees also sit there. That has not been connected to us. We are people here that have vested interests while we're working for the province. We have a vested interest while we work and do different volunteer stuff for the community. And also, there are many people here not today, and I took upon myself the last 2 weeks to go see some seniors. Madame est malade, monsieur est malade, tous les deux sont malades, ils sont très inquiets, ils ne sont pas ici. Alors, il y a eu plus qu'une miscommunication. Il y a eu de la discrimination des personnes âgées. Il y a eu aussi de la désinformation. Quelqu'un vous a engagé à nos frais pour implémenter threat et aussi pour faire the media campaigning. There's been media campaigning. I talked to a few reporters, and they get the impression of what you say is the truth, which isn't. There has been disinformation, and there's a professional consulting helping you to do that. So you're not an honest government. Another issue, talks about pooling in the super fund. What happens when you pool in the super fund? All the ones that are good, like the teachers, and also the NB employers, your basic descent, so you devalue your funds. So this government, the people at the table are well taken care of financially. Some have 1 or 2 pensions coming in, and we as retirees are not being consulted. We are being ripped off. That's the extent of what this government is doing. So there is no trust out. You've broken that.
Yeah.
So we definitely put it at risk, and the process here is to try to put that bridge back and try to get a path forward that we can achieve.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. À site F. London. Je vais parler français parce que c'est la langue que je connais le mieux après l'italien et l'espagnol. J'ai une question. Je vais commencer d'abord avec un commentaire. Lorsque mon ami Sean Brennan avait voulu vendre l'énergie du Brunswick, il a fait beaucoup d'études sans consulter la province, sans consulter les citoyens, sans consulter comme des Kerry. Tout d'un coup, on dit en avance, on n'est plus capable de financer l'énergie du Brunswick. On a vendu l'énergie du Brunswick au Québec. Les gens se sont révoltés. Ils ont dit que c'est malhonnête, c'est une approche secrète malhonnête. Le gouvernement a été renversé à cause de l'énergie nouveau approche. Ici, on dirait qu'on a commencé à faire une étude secrète sur les pensions des gens qui sont à la retraite ou qui le seront. Tout d'un coup, les gens commencent à se réveiller un petit peu comme dans le cas de l'énergie nouveau. Et moi, je crains une révolte des citoyens du Brunswick. Je crains réellement ça. Quelques mois passés, j'étais en Égypte et je sentais la révolte grandir. 6 mois après, une révolte. Alors, Monsieur le Ministre, Jacques Vert a posé une bonne question. Avez-vous gardé à d'autres alternatives? Tout récemment, on publiait qu'il y avait 400 quelques personnes au Canada, des milliardaires, qui investissaient de l'argent dans des abris ou des paradis fiscaux. J'ai hâte de connaître leur nom. Je suis convaincu qu'il n'y a aucun ici qui a fait ça. Il y a peut-être le billet. Alors ma question, ça c'est mon commentaire. D'autres possibilités que de regarder aux gens qui n'offrent des pensions de 20 000 $, d'autres 18 000, moi j'ai une bonne pension, ça ne me déterrait pas de faire l'indexation. On voit que l'autre d'alternative pourrait ne pas m'affecter parce que moi je le vis bien. Je prends 3 parties, tel revenu, par jour, que je vais dans l'eau. Bon, la question, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres personnes à la retraite qui ne sont pas affectées par ces changements ici? Quelqu'un m'a dit que les juges à la retraite pour le musique ne seraient pas affectés. Deuxièmement, les membres, que je respecte beaucoup, les membres de l'Assemblée législative, c'est Alcide Leblanc qui paye 100% des contributions de la retraite des députés provinciaux. Alors, est-ce que vous affectez aussi les juges et les membres de l'Assemblée législative? Les membres de l'Assemblée législative payent leur juste part pour leur propre retraite, comme ce gars ici a fait toute sa vie. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre.
institutions déterminées. Et ça, c'est une option qu'on n'a pas voulu considérer parce que là, c'était vraiment la beaucoup plus grande incertitude. Donc, pour réduire l'incertitude et gérer le risque, c'est le modèle qu'on a trouvé qui offrait les perspectives les plus intéressantes. Donc, oui, on les a considérés. Je dois avouer, par exemple, que je n'ai pas eu le temps de lire l'étude du Québec. Donc, je ne peux pas commenter sur les solutions. Peut-être retrouver des... J'ai rencontré aussi l'amour dont on savait parler, mais il n'a pas voulu dire ses secrets à l'avance. Donc, il y a peut-être des pistes de solutions que nous, on n'a pas considérées. Ça, c'est possible. Mais pour ce qui est de l'ensemble des régimes à peu près dans le monde occidental, on a regardé et le modèle proposé pour gérer les défis d'avenir était celui qu'on a considéré comme étant le plus intéressant.
Maintenant, les députés provinciaux.
We, and as a result, all of the MLAs we treat the same. The only group I can't comment on are the judges. They're kind of the ones that run their own, and we don't have any problem. The judges have a different plan. The judges have a different plan, and we cannot have any oversight.
Is that because you may seek a legal
all of the conversation that we've heard is with regard to the PSSA, but a lot of us draw income not only from the PSSA, but also from workforce adjustment and early retirement allowances and those sorts of funds. Are those funds as guaranteed fully encompassed as the rest of it?
Yes, they are. Nothing to change in that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am not a provincial government that I LA, but I still take an interest in what happens in this province. And I'm amazed how there can be so many economic problems here in this province. When you are blessed with so many resources, more resources than any other people, most of the people in the world have. But Minister Hayes, you are basically the one person. But those economic problems for the pension funds, the causes lead back many decades. It's the 40s, and wrong decisions that have been made over decades, at least in the last 60 years in this province. And we have to look at the people that are involved in this pension fund. A lot of them, they are teachers, they taught the children, they educated them at colleges, at community colleges, and most of them, where did they go? They went away. They started working somewhere else. They paid taxes somewhere else. So, there is one big problem that has never been addressed. Basically, in Brunswick, the taxpayers and with the debt that is now incurred, they have basically financed economic activity in other parts of the world, in other parts of Canada. It's basically money being thrown away. But, well, as I say, one big economic opportunity that has been very much mishandled by successive governments. And one gentleman on the panel, Byron James, I understood that he was Minister of Agriculture, Deputy Minister of Agriculture. One huge economic potential that has been basically thrown out the window. It's producing our food here. And that would be at least an economic input into the provincial economy of between $6 and $7 billion. And from the $6 or $7 billion of economic activity, there will be lots of spin-off jobs and there will be lots of tax revenue to the provincial government. And I remember there under Bernard Watts, talking about we have to get away from the last few years, the economic and political events, you know, that the rest of the world is going to have in a headcasket. Basically, what has been paid into the pension funds and what has been paid from the contributions, basically is what we put into an international gambling casino. You know, and I think we have to pay more attention and base our economic activity and everything more on a local economy.
So I certainly don't disagree with that, and we have talked with the investment, or about higher investment percentage here in the province, and they target a return, a real return of 4% plus, and they've been able to achieve that, but they have to manage the portfolio that will achieve that, or the pension fund would be in certainly much worse shape than it is. So that is something we can't prescribe directly unless they see the investment potential to get the return that they are required to achieve. So we don't play with that. That's something that we say we encourage investment in this province, but they manage that portfolio to the best of their ability to achieve the returns that are necessary.
I'm an immigrant. I've talked to a lot over the years to many immigrants or people that came from other regions and wanted to make a living in the Brunswick, started business enterprises and so. And what they always complained was, this bureaucracy basically chokes us to death. It takes the initiative away. And we have to make a differentiation between those people that are actively contribute in the civil service, you know, to the welfare of the province, and those that are hindering. And a few years ago, the idea was being floated about putting all three Netherlands provinces together under one administration. And at the time, that had about a population of a little bit over 2 million people before the car sense and this folly started out there. And about that was equal to the population of the three Netherlands provinces. But one figure that still stands in my mind, that was the three Netherlands provinces had 28,000 government employees to administrate, whereas in Alberta they had only 42,000. As I say, we have to take a good hard look, but I think because of the demise of most of the productive part of the economy, the government wants to make it up to pay more and more civil service and public employees positions, you know. And this is now the big stone that's hanging around the neck of the retirees, you know, and around the neck of the Brunswickers.
So I take your comment. I think what I've recognized since I went in with quite a different attitude than I currently have. And the attitude that I currently have is the tremendous value that the civil service brings to this province. Now, I've seen what difficulty they have in delivering that service. I don't argue that there are too many, because yes, there are. The size of this province, and you look at it across the province, across the country, we have too many employed by government. We have started a program, we started when we came in. We have reduced an average of 500 to 600 a year ever since we came in, where we reduced by 1,700 at this point. That's down from 53,000 down to just over 51 in a time when through attrition went. And that's a program we're going to continue. And the importance of doing that is that every department has restructured through that process, so it'll continue. And it'll build upon that, and it'll continue to reduce. The opportunity that we have for civil service to deliver better performance is to provide more opportunity for them to independently put their best foot forward and deliver and get some of the politics out of the middle. That is one of the biggest obstacles that prevent individuals from doing the best job they possibly can do. And that's the attitude change I've had since I've been here, because I see the potential within the system and the people that are there. We can talk after. Next week. Thank you. Thank you.
Minister, first of all, I want to thank you for being here. There was a question earlier about your colleagues. Are there any cabinet colleagues of yours here today?
I'm not sure.
to communication, and I hope to negotiation. My question is, with whom and when will you negotiate any terms of trust instruments regulating the pension fund that we have funded?
Okay. And what I did committed to the other night when we were in St. John the afternoon, and last night, President, and we need to have a group, and whether that, and obviously I think there'll be members of the coalition, but aside from that would be, that could be a representative group, that we can sit down, go through more details about the presentation, answer more specific questions from individuals that would be come through the coalition group, and then once we all have a clear understanding of the situation, then we map out a solution. So we're prepared to do that. I'm prepared to be involved with that personally, and we can get a result that I'm sure we will work for this purpose.
And Minister, one supplementary question. You will allow sufficient time in order for that process to come to fruition and be realized, given the legislation, at least some of the alien legislation has already been passed, and I understand proclaimed.
Well, the legislation that was passed was based on the actual unions and representative groups that have already signed on.
It was specific to that?
Yes.
Not to this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want details. I want, when somebody takes my money, I want to know how it's going to be invested. And so far, we've had no details. We've had scenarios, no assumptions given based on how the scenario is going to be done. We've had a letter saying 3 things about the change. One, we could get more than 5%, or 6, depending on the situation. Another one, base benefits, what I get every month, will stay the same. And maybe, depending on conditions, there might be not full amount of Canada CPI. However, today, there's more, but there's still no specifics, in my opinion. And if I go downtown and I'm putting my money in an investment firm, I want to know. And that is everybody in here's money. And we earned it. And then we get a letter saying, don't worry, you will not change going forward. You send us a letter at the end of January. You say, here's your annual increase. 3 days later, you send another one saying the plan is going to change, not to worry. And then the question was asked today about excuse me, I'm having a senior's moment. The Brunswick investment management. And it's my opinion that they have done a good job. And they have met all goals. And in the telephone town hall meeting, I don't know how you can have a meeting on a telephone, but maybe your spin doctors can come up with a better word. Maybe we can get some specifics rather than sound bites. Maybe we can be open and honest with retirees that gave their life and gave thousands of free hours to make this a better province. Working on how to make them feel guilty that they don't care about the workers. They don't care about the future generations. That's thank you. That's a lot of thank you. However, my question is, you said that the Brunswick investment management would not change. Well, I have downloaded from a site, a government site, a PowerPoint presentation. And PowerPoint presentations we got today, by the way, don't
somebody to know that's fighting for me, not one-sided. And it says a timeline that the next steps, April to September 2013, amend New Brunswick Management Investment Corporation. It says repeal of the Public Service Superannuation. This was given Monday, April 8th. But people can change their mind. Right. And you've probably changed it now.
In the spirit of cooperation and good humor, I think you've helped us get there. The timeline, in this year in the budget, we have booked as part of our deficit $110 million liability that's related to this proposal. So we were looking at and planning that if it goes forward, we have to have it in, we want it to be able to strive. The same with the timeline. Yes, we were hoping that we'd be able to work through this and have a plan in place that would see the same legislation that came forward when the other unions signed up. And that's what that proposal is. But obviously, that timeline is going to have to extend a bit.
Fred Savoy, retired public servant and teacher. I think we've all heard from people not only at Tim Hortons but almost everywhere that retired public servants have a gold-plated retirement pension. And I just want to comment that this sometimes comes from people who have very little pensions. And I think that it's obvious that some of these people are going to cost them a lot more because they're working poor now, and they're going to be poorer by the time they retire. And my comment is this, and maybe I'd like you to respond. It is easy for governments, I think, to be cozying up to big business. And I think it's obvious that in a lot of cases, big business feels that if they feel that the government has these so-called gold-plated pension plans, and there's support from the public for them to increase their pensions. And I wonder, sir, if this is a step in the direction that everybody is going to be brought down to the lowest common denominator.
Well, actually, that's certainly not the goal. The goal is to put us in perspective with what not only the province can afford, but what is the approach that we're seeing happening across Canada and across many countries. And part of the renewal efforts inside the government is based on understanding the job functionality that we have. When we talked earlier about getting the right size in terms of government, it's about understanding the jobs, understanding the level of these jobs, not only in comparison to the public sector, but in comparison to the private sector, the pay scales, the compensation, the benefits, everything that goes with that. And putting a plan forward that not only can you understand, but that we can communicate to taxpayers. Because one of the things that I do see as a difference, as another difference within the government situation, is that it's very difficult to negotiate and work through a meaningful process of what should be the right outcome, or what your character should be. Because usually in some part of the discussion, it always comes out, well, you just wait for the next election, we'll fix you. And for some of us that may be a blessing. So that's just what it is. But I guess we are trying to make it a reliable, meaningful exercise that is necessary for the future
big industry is uncomfortable with the way that public servants are treated during their retirement. And there is a certain envy, and that's...
Well, no, I wouldn't make that connection. I mean, I guess if you made any connection, you might say, well, the big industry or private sector of any kind, do they look at public sector and say, are you comparing favorably with what we can offer in the public sector, in the private sector? Because, we've had that complaint from businesses of all sizes that would say, I'm losing people to the public sector because I can't compete with benefits and in salary. And in some cases, it's a job. In some cases, we make a step with the government. So there is that element to do a comparison, but I wouldn't lock it into any particular big business or small business. It is a business comment in that regard. See?
Monsieur le ministre, mon nom est Roger Poiron, je suis un retraité de l'enseignement. D'abord, j'aimerais vous faire un commentaire et après j'aurai quelques questions. Je trouve ça intéressant que vous ayez commencé vos remarques en vous excusant du manque de communication avec le peuple. Et je trouve ça triste en même temps que vous ayez besoin de vous excuser pour un manque de communication. Par ce fait même, vous avez créé chez beaucoup de personnes dans cette salle de l'inquiétude, de l'insécurité. Et je trouve ça inacceptable. Pour faire ce commentaire à M. Leblanc tout à l'heure, je pensais que le gouvernement conservateur aurait appris de la leçon des libéraux concernant l'énergie du Nouveau-Brunswick. Et à un moment donné, Robert Fichette, qui était l'ancien chef de cabinet de Bichot, avait traité ces gens-là d'amateurs sans talent. Je ne sais pas si les gens se rappellent de ça, mais en tout cas, des amateurs sans talent. J'ai l'impression qu'en écoutant ce qui se passe, c'est qu'on a exactement la même chose. On a des amateurs sans talent qui ont voulu nous passer un sapin, je reviens de le dire demain, et pensant qu'il n'y avait pas de réaction. Ceci étant dit, je trouve ça quand même désolant de voir qu'on ait ce genre de rencontre après que les faits semblent être déjà de l'avant. Et dans ma première question, d'abord une question celle-ci. Je n'ai pas compris la réponse que vous avez donnée à M. Leblanc concernant la pension des députés. Et à ma connaissance, je trouve que j'ai mal compris ou que vous n'avez pas répondu à la question. Qu'est-ce qui arrive avec les députés? Première question. La deuxième question. Dans la présentation de M. Ferguson, je ne sais pas si bien rendu. Est-ce que les données statistiques qu'il nous a fournies, est-ce que ça représente l'ensemble de tous les récipiendaires d'une pension gouvernementale au Nouveau-Brunswick, ou est-ce que l'analyse se situe principalement au niveau en anglais, ça s'appelle PSSR? Alors, j'aimerais savoir qu'est-ce que c'est qu'il y en est. Et la troisième question, où en êtes-vous dans la préparation d'une législation concernant les changements à apporter au régime de pension? Merci.
As far as the MLA pension plan, we treat it the very same way to share with one as we're talking here. So there isn't any difference in that regard. Same process would follow here.
When he asked you what was your participation in making up the fund as an MLA,
if the fund requires additional contributions, the same as it does in this model, it will be the same thing for the MLA pension. We're not changing that process. The only one that I couldn't comment on was in relation to the judges, and it falls under a different act. And we can recommend, but we can't.
When I stopped teaching in 1998, my contribution was about 7% of my salary. Yes. So I'm going to ask the question another way. What is the percentage of contribution by an MLA to his pension?
What's yours?
It makes it sound a little strange, but I don't know my contribution. It may come as a surprise, but any part of the This is your pension plan, and this is what it looks like if you have zero contribution, or zero index, sorry. That's not what this is proposing, but that's what was circulated. And I understand why people got upset and annoyed about that. I'd be annoyed about that, but that is not this plan at all. So we know we have to get the facts out there. We have to we'll have 4 meetings, and we'll do it as many as necessary so that people can understand, and then we decide how to fix it. Yes, so this presentation is actually, if it's not already, it will be on our website. So you have full access.
On the website, not in writing, the way I receive communication from the government.
Well, we weren't planning to mail out, 20,000 copies, but if you request a copy here today, I'll see that you get one.
Because it was difficult when you asked us to trust you.
I understand.
You must understand that. We have a contract, you want to change it, you're giving information, nothing in writing, mustn't do anything in writing. I think that would be important. Sure. Certainly a summary. Sure. Excellent.
So do you want to leave your address, I'll give your name and address with the gentleman in the corner, and we'll make sure that we send you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's David Shaw. Just a few observations. I noticed that the company district refers to it as hotels. Probably expert in reducing costs, moving costs, those kind of things. That yes, sir. This is not a corporation. This is a government. I don't know if your website you mentioned government accounts or customers, but the people of this province are all taxpayers. They're not corporations. And the corporations are probably paying tax. One of the things I know you're looking forward all the time, you want to find ways to address current economic crises in this process, but in doing so, perhaps creating more. One thing I've been given the fact that with the indexing for seniors or for pensioners rather, their level of paying power is going to diminish substantially. This province had zero growth for many years and it will continue so. So therefore, the likelihood they'll get any index pension increase in the future is slim to none. That being the case, they're likely to fall to the poverty level. And in line with that, I would assume that if their money and income reduce, their ability to pay for nursing homes is going to be subsidized by the government anyway. Maybe you'll leave that to another crisis. And as far as this group here, in your particular Mr. Minister, it's your responsibility to take the message back and allow the third of many people. I applaud you for waking up great power on smart. It's great. A lot of people out here, but I think you want to take back to the Premier that this may be the Sean Graham, let's sell up and new power lines. I don't know.
Two points. All retired people are not on the internet or email. Some have are beyond that age, and I think it should be up to the corporation and the government to advertise to notify the retirees that there are pending changes not by asking them to go such and such place to leave their name. I think the onus should be on the government. The other thing also is legislation. You mentioned the judge is under a separate act. The legislation can be used for the judge, so it should not be used sparingly. It should also be used for the MLA pension. If you want to legislate, everybody should be legislated equally. That's not what's being talked about here. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I think it's a neat expression.
Brunswick are requesting guarantees in honoring contracts, there's such a thing as performance. But from the standpoint of the rest of the country, now that apparently all of the governments are in deficit, and I'm amazed that the feds actually said there would be no reduction this year in the transfer payments, even though it would be appropriate for there to be a reduction. Are the seniors that are demanding, are the retirees that are demanding the guarantees willing to guarantee that the cost of doing that will not be passed on to my kids, but only their kids? Are they willing to say, well, I'll sign up my kids and my grandkids to guarantee my pension, even though they can never have one? They don't seem to be incentive of doing that. But no. The thing is, I'm just concerned because in the next 2.5, say 32 months, if you guys don't continue to refine things and improve things, and I admire your courage for trying to do this, the change is essential. You have to change. And you try, and this is a reasonable approach. It's not as tough as some would say it should be, because you guys are going to work on very hard with this work. But is there any sense that the retirees recognize that things have changed and things have to change?
It's great that we live longer. So I didn't mean to offend anyone no issue either. Let me be clear, okay? On your second point, the plan was in a surplus at the end of 2000.
So the actuary said that was wrong.
The calculation was correct at that time, but interest rates were much higher than they are today. And as I explained, as interest rates decrease, you need more money in the fund to fund the same pension. So, on the first one, I did not intend, it's just a fact. We live longer, it's a great thing. I hope I get the same too. Okay? But don't take that to mean that that's the cause of the problem. It is not. Lower interest rates is the major one. Okay?
It's interesting when you look at the chart, and when we had Mr. McKenna stand up to recognize that the pension fund and the PSA was underfunded, and then you clearly see in the graph that at that time, then contributions started, and the fund then took off. But my question, and I'm not a big actuary, but I have a little math that says the multiplication factor is if you put the money in early, then in later, that's when you're going to see bigger dividends. And I still didn't hear the answer to the question, if my employer had made their contributions from 1932 to 1992, as they should have, as they are obligated to do so, would I be standing here today?
First of all, the employer started putting contributions in the 50s, and then started matching in 78, as you saw in the chart. And then it is correct, in the McKenna government, there were special payments implemented to deal with the deficit that existed at that time. Those payments were made. By the end of 2000, there was a surplus in the plan. So had payments been made before, there would have been fewer payments made after to get to the same point by the end of 2000. And because the way the Act is structured since the McKenna years is, if there is a deficit, special payments are made. If there is no deficit, special payments cease. So when the deficit disappeared, because of good market conditions at the end of the 90s, before 9/11 and what followed, the plan had generated substantial returns above the assumption of the actuary back in 1991 or 89 or whenever the McKenna years were, when McKenna looked at this. So if more money had been put in before, less would have been put in after, because you're always aiming to get that funding level. Now, if it had been put in and those extra contributions would have made on top of that, then yes, there would be more money. How much more I have not calculated.
Mr. Minister, also, that I guess from a taxpayer point of view, there are obvious other ways of creating revenue for the province other than just taxes and transfer payments. I think such things like automobile insurance. A few years ago, a big study was done, insurance rates were adjusted, something was mentioned with regard to a provincial government insurance act, like Saskatchewan has. We don't have to go to Denmark to find a solution to this problem, because approximately $50 million in premiums, after all settlements have been made, are going out of this province to New York City, to Toronto, to Geneva, and yet our province and our leaders do nothing to address that, follow a wonderful role model of Saskatchewan, and institute a provincial government insurance program and keep the revenues in this province, and then again, I wouldn't be standing here today.
Mr. Minister, I have a comment, a secret to tell you. My comment is this one. The next time you meet with Standard & Poor, tell them that they should not have rated the subprime with a 3A. That caused the big crash, and it caused our pension fund with 4 points at least 4 points, if not more. So tell them that they should be careful when they rate their company. And by the way, they rated the bank, our big bank. They went from a legislation that you are going to propose to make changes to the law amendment committee?
We are not referring anything at this point. We are working through an amendment to the current pension plan, and we have one that is proposed, and we hope to work through a solution that will allow this to be accepted, so then we can propose an amendment.
But it will eventually go to the law amendment committee.
Well, it has to be the same as the other units. When we did that and they accepted the program, then it went through the amendment. That's right.
Bonjour. Je suis tout faire des commentaires, moi, parce que j'ai entendu. Je suis pas bonne dans les chiffres du tout, mais je veux juste dire ceci. J'ai commencé à payer des impôts à l'âge de peut-être 17 ans, j'en ai 70. Et à 70 ans, on commence à me dire qu'il manque d'argent. Alors, tout l'argent que je paye en impôts, sur mes pensions, taxes de ville, taxes de vidéo, des taxes quand on achète une voiture, quand on achète des choses, toutes les taxes qu'on paye, puis vous en avez jamais assez. Alors je pose la question, les gens n'ont jamais été aussi éduqués que maintenant, avec les universités et les gens qui étudient et les ordinateurs et toute la technologie d'aujourd'hui, puis les gens qui sont là sont pas capables de calculer. Moi, je ne comprends pas. J'aimerais qu'on m'explique pourquoi ça va si mal avec toutes les gens éduqués qu'on a aujourd'hui, puis toutes les têtes fortes qu'on a là. Pourquoi ils ne sont pas capables de gérer notre argent, parce que c'est dans notre argent, le gouvernement, c'est notre argent. Comment se fait-il qu'ils ne sont pas capables de gouverner notre argent? Moi, j'aimerais que quelqu'un puisse m'expliquer la réponse, parce que je n'arrive pas à comprendre. Alors, puis là, je pique personne de particulier. C'est pas le gouvernement qui est là maintenant, parce qu'à un moment donné, on va leur faire un groupe, on va faire quelque chose qui va se produire. Alors, je veux juste, en général, j'ose pas poser la question, je pense que je pose la question. Est-ce que ça se passe que c'est mal géré? Je veux une réponse à ça.
Juste pour vous dire, quand on a regardé un peu ce qui se faisait partout, si la situation avait été unique au Nouveau-Brunswick ou unique à certains temps du régime au Nouveau-Brunswick, je dirais c'est un problème de mauvaise gestion chez nous. Mais si vous regardez, il y a des villes aux États-Unis qui ont été déclarées faillites en bonne partie à cause des régimes de pension. En Europe, il y a particulièrement à cause des bas taux d'intérêt, la situation a fait en sorte que le modèle d'approche qu'on avait ne donne plus les résultats qu'on espérait. Et la majorité des régimes ont été bien gérés et la situation n'est pas catastrophique aujourd'hui. C'est un peu l'approche que nous, au niveau du comité de travail qui s'est donné, c'est le mandat que nous avons donné, c'est comment est-ce qu'on fait pour mettre en place des structures pour éviter que dans 5 ans, dans 10 ans, dans 15 ans, qu'on frappe un mur. Donc, c'est de préparer le terrain. Donc, c'est pas pour dire que les choses qui ont été faites dans le passé étaient si mauvaises que ça, c'est de réaliser que les changements qui sont en train de se produire, puis les économistes sont encore pire qu'une erreur pour prédire l'avenir, ça fait que je ne vous dirai pas que ce sont les taux d'intérêt dans 10 ans, mais si la nouvelle réalité continue, on va avoir des problèmes. Donc, c'est pour mettre en place des structures pour éviter ces problèmes-là. C'est ça la philosophie du changement qui est en train d'être proposée.
So if I might respond in English, just a few comments on that. So there was a reference made to we seem to never have enough in relation to the revenue. But you know what is the root cause of that is that we can never provide enough. And if you go from one election to the other, it is a step change in the budget at every election because everybody wants something and now's the time to get it. So when you think about that in the future elections, what you should be looking at is the party that promises the least, only promises to manage better and to get more with what we have today, rather than promise you something that you're going to turn around and pay for in the next year or two. So that is the challenge we have. That's when we never had enough because our thirst is never satisfied for wanting more. And we comments in our budget title was not an accident. It wasn't a phrase. Managing smarter for a brighter future was purely to look at how we do everything we do in government, how we define its success, how we determine its value, and how we get rid of those things that don't make sense to us. Services we provide, things we do that are not valued for the taxpayer. So in everything we're doing, we're trying to be smarter about it. So we don't always come back and ask for more. But it starts with the demands that are placed at the time of elections. I want this, I want that. We need to deal with that very. And all parties need to be part of that process.
Okay, all along we've talked about indexing. First of all, we forget that the pensions are our deferred payment. We've earned that. During negotiations with the government, many times we have cut back on raises in order to put the money into the pension. So this is not money that the government owns. Talked about the government puts in $2.50 for every dollar that we put in. Well, the funny part is, I've been told that our pension is 87% funded. If it's 87% funded, that only leaves 13% for the government to put in, not 250%. And one thing you're forgetting is we are all seniors. And many seniors here, I'm sure there are some, who have retired on low pensions. And if you cut back on their pension, they won't really have enough to live on. And I think you've forgotten about that. And for Mr. Ferguson, I'm sure you're being paid a good lot for what you're doing, going around and giving us this summary and so on. And as far as I'm concerned, all you've done is try to baffle us with bullshit.
So, I guess our meeting is winding to a close. Just the comment, just to clarify the funding model. We're 87% funded because we do contribute 2.5 to 1. We would be contributing, and we have to fund it in that range, so that there's $1 million shortfall roughly in the time because it's not 100% funded. We would have to fund higher than that in order to get to 100% funding. So that's the reality of the situation. And I guess, we feel that the presentation, although it's maybe the first time you've seen all these details, we have got a proposal here that we've tried to provide a very clear and presentation that we can talk about and learn more from and develop some interest in. We will provide whatever information required from there. Yes?
Or Bill or John,
Yes, Mike said it. It's on. Go ahead.
Okay, I have some short questions. I'm retired from National Civil Service, but I did notice today there were several people who weren't retired from the civil service. When you talk about the communication plan, what I might suggest at a future meeting is that when somebody introduces themselves that way, that perhaps you could ask them if they would mind waiting till the end of the meeting. Then, the retirees have their say, because we sit through a lot of information from someone, and then they leave, and a lot of our people are leaving, and not everybody's had an opportunity to speak. You may have something that's of interest to the retirees. The second thing that I would suggest, communication-wise, when you're doing this, is to keep check on your podiums, your microphones, and go from one to the other. Because I noticed for a while there were 3 at this podium that spoke, and then 1 over here. It got better.
Well, we had a mic that wasn't working for a while.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to know, have you talked to the current employees about the shared risk plan?
going, we don't know anything, should we, let them go to work?
But everyone will be aware of this, everyone's had the opportunity to learn about it, has everyone participated in this sort of meeting? Probably not, but it is the goal that we all do.
On communications again, whoever did the representation to them, they didn't get anything from it because they're all going around, tell us what happened and what's happening tomorrow. But we can't do anything because it's a completely different scenario. And it's just a fellow human being. I am concerned what's going to happen to the employees now. There's going to be increased costs for them. And then the other thing I would like to know is, are you now, after 3 meetings, going to go and get the legal opinion whether you can break this contract or not?
Well, that is not our goal, to do that. And I guess if you would like for me to do that and come back and say, do we have a legal right to do it or not, I can certainly find that out. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to find out what's the right thing to do here going forward and have them develop a plan that works for us.
Right. But I would like that because you said that at one point you could divide it into retirees. They could take the money out, get it going one, and it would remain the same. Or
please here realizing, first of all, that we have not capitulated this idea. I feel a lot of the speakers are getting very technical. We should do this, we should do that, post this on your website. To me, your word is supposed to be your word. In Canada, we live in a democracy. Brunswick is democracy. I'm a retired teacher, one of the past presidents of the NBTA. Whenever I went to government, the one thing we knew in the two groups was that our word was good. I find it very difficult now to say that it's not even good when it's written on a piece of paper. I also believe that when a person from Toronto, I guess, says something about our retirees, about their age being a factor, it's very, very awful, just scandalous. And I hope you take this up with your Premier, whoever, and I think that the Premier should be here, and a lot of his cabinet ministers to try to, if he wants to explain this, because I certainly have bought into it. I think your word is good. When I buy a car, I know how much I have to pay. When I retire, then I should know how much I'm going to make. It doesn't make one bit of sense.
Retired teacher and many other things that I've had in my life, I've grown and so on. I've been listening attentively to your presentation, or your government's presentation, and also the point of view of retirees and future retirees. It seems to me that I've seen your calculations and proposal is based on today's economic downturn, the worst we've seen in many, many years. It's not going to last. It's going to be better eventually, very soon. Now, it seems to me that the attitude that I'm hearing on the government side is let's get this thing or this scenario going right away before the economic downturn starts to go on. Maybe I have the wrong impression, but is that the case? That you want to get this done immediately, and then when the economy starts going better?
No, that's not the case. It's like a lot of things. When you start filling in the gaps, and we've allowed our deficit to grow, in the last, let's say 6-7 years. It's grown $6 billion now. Can we keep that growing? And before somebody, raising interest rates, so we're paying $1 billion a year on interest, we're paying $700 million now. When we start, we can keep spending. I think probably at the last meeting, our spending habits.
You had to tell us before you took it off. You had other things.
No, this is one of many things. Everywhere in this province, there's something that we can't touch. Everywhere. So I know, but this is the scenario everywhere. You can't do this here. So go find something else to fix. So that's the message that I have gotten all over the province. So at some point, and where do you start? And I know it's not popular. And I said to I never heard when I first came in, that the best way to address this provincial situation is that someone has to decide what's most important. Is it most important to do what's right for this province? Or is it most important to spend their time thinking about the next election? And for me, it's most important to fix what's right for this province.
There's one thing I want to comment. Your visits to many parts of the province. You're visiting, and that is appreciated because you're hearing it from concerned citizens and so on. So thank you very much for doing so.
And thank you, and I appreciate being here because it is real. I understand, but I understand the passion of it, and that's why I believe the same passion exists for us trying to find a way through. Just keep talking and turn on.
Thank you. The first point I would like to make on the debate by the previous speaker, Mr. Meyer, bringing in experts from Toronto does not go down well when they're giving us advice about what we have to do and what we have to put up. Please don't do that. There are lots of people with expertise in New Brunswick. Why don't we use them? The next thing is that my understanding of the shared risk plan is that there be actuarial studies on an annual basis. I think that that is a waste of money. Things do not change that fast. We've been having them approximately every 3 years, and that to me would be quite sufficient.
Very large pension plans are valued annually now. The BSSA is there's no necessarily a report produced every year, but the calculations are done because you got to keep pace. There's billions of dollars involved here.
Fair enough. We don't need to have annual reports. Every 3 years, in my view, would be sufficient. The last thing is quite irrelevant to the pension plan per se, but everybody's making the point that people live longer and that this is costing us more and more. The health costs are going out the window. My father, for the last 5 years of his life, would ask anybody in the medical profession to get in touch with, could you give me a little pill that would stop me from waking up in the morning? There are lots of people who don't want to have a life prolonged, but they are not able to do anything about it because of the legislation against assisted suicide. That is a fundamental challenge that I think needs to be made. Thank you.
I want to first thank you for coming here. I think that seeing you face to face and hearing what you have to say is important to all of us. You talked about a shared risk plan. I believe that if we are to share risk, there's another thing we should share as well. It's shared management and shared planning. I believe that you did some planning with the unions and came to an agreement with them, and I believe that us as a group, we have a right to decide with you what's going to be done with our money.
My name is Clifford Kennedy, and I sit on the steering committee of the coalition. We have been going around the province, as you know, meeting with retirees to get them informed and sensitized to the issue going on. The former teacher that just came up a few minutes ago, the actual statement that was made by Susan Rowland, who is the chairperson of the task force, is you old buggers just don't want to die. Vous, les vieux cons, ne voulez pas vivre trop longtemps. And that statement that was made by someone you paid to come to New Brunswick from Bay Street at $600 an hour, we don't need that kind of a message from those people. And that statement Conrad has just said in regards to mortality rates. So if you want to address that first point, because I've got 3 points.
You'll notice she's not here today.
We understand that.
I understand that, and that comment is uncalled for. It is certainly inappropriate, and that is not something that we would do.
Thank you very much for that. My second comment. I understand that you have sessions still in Miramichi tonight and in Bathurst, Campbellton, and Edmonton. You will see me in Edmonton. I will be there too.
Well, just as a correction, so my colleague will be in the northern part of the province going through, so I won't be there.
That's fine.
But there will be meetings held, yes.
That's fine. There's a statement that was made by the Premier back in May 2012, and I'm going to quote, so it's not my words, this is a quote from the Premier when he launched the shared risk model. He said, "We understand that each pension plan must be carefully examined and evaluated on its own terms, and the shared risk model is not a one-size-fits-all." I think people bought into that from day one, and every one of us just kind of backed off and said, okay, we're going to be protected because our plan is guaranteed. Those are his words, not mine. However, here's the flip-flop. Et je vais le dire en français. C'est un vol de face du Premier ministre. Et le 20 février 2013, au sommet national sur la réforme des pensions, le Premier ministre a dit « Heureusement, les syndicats ont compris et la campagne pour éduquer les retraités se poursuit. » On parle au mois de février. Il n'y avait aucune campagne pour éduquer n'importe qui au mois de février. En fin de compte, c'est le meilleur modèle pour le Nouveau-Brunswick. Déjà déterminé par le Premier ministre et même dans une période de 10 mois, il a fait un vol de face complet.
Well, I don't, I guess in terms of the campaign and such a discussion with the active members, maybe there was a belief that there were discussions going on with retirees as well, but obviously that was not the case. And so the fact that one size doesn't fit all, that has been proven in the agreements that have been ratified to date. And so the part of this process, what we say here today, is we recognize that the PSSA has unique characteristics, and we need to recognize that as we look forward to finding a solution. And that's part of the process we're now working on.
Okay, in looking forward for that solution, you did indicate that following your meeting in Fredericton and St. John yesterday, that you're looking at having collaboration, discussion, and with the coalition to try and come to an understanding or find some alternative or options or things of that nature. Do you still plan to have new legislation brought to the House before the end of this session?
No, we don't have a timeline. And I know what it said in the website, but we don't have a fixed timeline to do that for the session. Obviously, we could get an agreement, and we could delve the path forward. We did the same thing as we did with the other plans for legislative changes. But what I would ask is that for you as part of the membership of the coalition, is we need to determine, and I believe some of you had a meeting with the Premier a week or so ago.
That's correct.
So we just need to determine who would be, and maybe it would be the same group.
Yes.
And it would be good, particularly where your members are traveling to all the meetings. I will have gone to 3, and my colleague will have gone to 4. Is for a recap on your view of what points need to be addressed, so that we can all be on the same page for items that need to be discussed and questions that need to be answered.
Agreed.
So I very much appreciate it.
All right, I thank you very much.
I was at the Riverview meeting of the Pension Coalition, and I asked the question, and this was the question: does this apply to school teachers, public school teachers? And I was told that it did not apply to public school teachers. I went at the Moncton meeting, and then it was in French, so maybe they understood me, but I asked the same question: does this apply to public school teachers? And I was told
talking about PSSA. So as we just talked about 2 minutes ago, that each program or each agreement, needs to be evaluated and developed on its own right. That's what we're doing, and so today's session is all about the PSSA.
When you say eventually, what do you mean?
Well, certainly our focus here now is to work through the PSSA resolution, and then the next opportunity, and likely what we've learned through the discussions here would then be to have meetings with the teachers.
I have a couple of short questions. I'll keep it brief. I was on the teleconference when we had an opportunity to ask the questions. I'm today feeling pretty unfortunate because I have 2 pension plans, both in the province of Brunswick, so I figure I can't win either way. One of which is the PSSA. I understand that some groups have already negotiated and possibly accepted something with the government. I asked on the conference, number 1, which pension plans were in shortfall, and was told that couldn't be shared with us. I asked if you could see the document that was provided by the committee that overviewed all the pensions, and I was told that couldn't be shared with us as well. So my question today is, because I am a member of the PSSA, but unfortunately I also am a member of the nurses' pension plan, I'd like to know if they are one of the ones that have reached some sort of agreement, because I have asked repeatedly, I've asked people who are presently working, I've asked retirees. There are a number of us here who are in both plans, the PSSA and the certain bargaining plans, and we can't seem to find any information out. Now, this all comes back to communication. So, are you willing to share that information with us today?
Yes. Yeah, there are 4 that have signed up to the program now. Nurses being one.
And may I ask why none of that was ever communicated to the people who are retired and...
Well, it's public knowledge. I mean, it was announced, they announced it together with the group last night. It was a major public announcement.
We've never received anything from the pension plan, any document, nothing, right?
So maybe, part of that has been maybe a misunderstanding that it would be anticipated that the unions themselves would have a communication plan that would go to all its members. Because this...
I'm not a union member.
No, I understand what you're saying now, but this was a very public process, and it was a big announcement made at the time, and with the legislative changes, there was no secret mission here.
But there were nobody from the retirees were invited to attend one of the pieces. There's a large number of us here today, and we do nothing about it. So that's one of my questions asked. So how do I go about finding out information on what was negotiated or accepted, or where do I go? Do I go to the government? I can't go to the union, I'm not a union member, I am retired.
So I guess in your case, and just to refer to Byron in relation to the pensions branch of Human Resources of the government of Brunswick, you're a member. You can get that
information. And would you not think they might send some of this information? Anyway, so the union not only negotiated for the paying members, but they also negotiated for the retirees. And I wonder if that was ethical on both their behalf and on behalf of the government. But I'm sure that you can't answer that question either. And I'm not saying that to be nasty, I'm just to ask. The other thing I'd like to share, I worked in Human Resources for a number of years, and during that period, it was the late 80s and early 90s, and I know for a fact that the employer did not share or did not pay their portion of employees' pension plans for certain unions. So when your actuary says that I think that they paid everything since the 70s, I'm sure that may not quite be true, or maybe I'm just drinking Technicolor and under the incentive. Thank you. And thank you for the information, because there's a number of us, we've been trying to find out about the nurses, and we just are not getting the information.
So I think to talk about that, the nurses have they were first, those funds are contributed equally by the employer and the employees. I understand contributions are the same between the two, but they're not made up in the same manner as the PSSA or the teachers, right? So those funds we funded these PSSA in the same manner as an employer-employee relationship would normally be, the same situation would exist.
But it's only been 100 years that the nurses fund was underfunded, because when I was still working, the pension plan was in good shape. So it's obviously been mismanaged in latter years because...
Well, I mean, it's not all about mismanagement. It's about, the fund is designed at contribution level that is based on a certain interest rate. And if you can't achieve that interest rate, then you've either got to do one of two things. You change the contribution level or you reduce benefits. You got to do something. And if you do neither, the fund continues to drop in
And the contributions went up considerably during the last few years that I worked. But I guess one point that I would like to make on a positive note here is if you continue to negotiate with other union people, be it the teachers or whoever, that you involve the retirees.
Hi, there's a couple of comments, and one of them is right on the board. I've been looking at it for an hour. Any benefit reduction during the next 20 years is highly unlikely, less than 2.5% chance. All I've been reading about in the paper is shared risk retirement fund modeled after a Dutch model that just went down 0.7. So our odds aren't very good, are they? Why are you saying that when the model you're basing it on has already gone down?
The model that is being presented here is not a photocopy of the Dutch model. The Dutch model has some weaknesses, specifically with risk management. And that actually, they realized a few years back that they didn't change it. So the way the model is set up is to prevent exactly what happened over the past year. And it's about a quarter of the funds that will, on average, have that decrease. Some are actually being indexing this year, those that have proper risk management. But that being said, you're quite correct. If it was a photocopy of that Dutch model, we would be facing the same problems. We adopted risk management practices that would improve the management and have the probability of decrease a lot less than what is the case there. And actually, they're the ones that said, don't do it like we did. These are the measures that should be taken. Go see what the Brits have done with risk management.
I fully understand what you're saying, but that's not what the press is saying. And you guys have not read the press as you say that's not a carbon copy. So we're left to believe that, hey, they're already going down, we're going down. Okay. A couple other small things. You mentioned, Mr. Ferguson, if it went down, and I'm going to give you 1%, and the government would make it back up, when and how soon would they make it back up?
Before I understand your question, if what went down?
If we went down on our pension, 1%, okay, should it happen, unlike that, but should it happen, it states in your thing that it would be given back to us. When?
Well, we can't predict these with exact accuracy, we're modeling, but we modeled 20 years, and the majority of the scenarios that lead to reduction recover before the end of the 20th year. And they tend to, some take a long time before, like you're talking 7, 8, 9 years before there is a risk of reduction, because we start with a strongly funded position and pretty strong contributions. So it takes something pretty nasty, like the 30s recessions, but the rebound is there too. So it's hard to say. Some scenarios it could be a rebound in 2 years, and some scenarios you may announce the reduction, and then the market has rebounded and you won't do it. Okay, because there's a 30-month period between the point where you're in a deficit and the point where retention actually occurs, because we allow time in the modeling and in the practice that if the market rebounds, you're not going to make a reduction of
First off, is that not going to add to the people on the pension and reduce the amount of money going into the pension fund because you're dropping people like flies.
In the modeling we do, the set contribution, we take that into account. So we're allowing for more reduction in workforce than what's been announced by government to make sure that there's enough money going in, even if those reductions in workforce occur.
Is there any contingency in there for MLAs, ministers, premiers, to work 35 years to get a pension like I had to? Or are they still going to get their full pension after 8 years?
Maybe what I would say to that is you need to work 30 some years before you ever even run into it. And then you come into a different perspective. And that's, I think it's important to be able to have a different perspective. I don't think you'll ever see a case where elected officials would say, I've been on 33 years, or 30 plus years. Everyone has an opportunity to take on these roles. And I don't know that I would be one that would recommend it, but it's an opportunity for everyone to do. You know, that's democracy, that's the system we have. I don't see that changing. But we have reduced the number, you talked about reducing the number. We're reducing from 55 to 49. We did cut the pensions back 30%. We have held the line and increased it to 0. And everything that we're proposing here, and change we propose in any activity, goes right to the MLAs as well. So we are not showing any differences in that regard.
But that one last comment on something you just said a while ago. We need your help. That's what you just said to this group. We're an afterthought. You need it out at the beginning, and you wait till the very end when somebody says, hey, things are going wrong here.
Fair enough. And I guess, so there's no rebuttal to that. I think we've been laid off the market to engage people that could provide you greatest level of advice and assistance and so forth. So I share the earlier comments about our families and moving out west and creating an economy here for the state, because that'll be the end goal for us. There are a lot of areas that we see opportunities to do that. I have 4 daughters, and 3 of them are in Ontario. And I don't feel any better about my kids being out of the province than you do. We know we have to develop the economy. What we're trying to do is manage what we have now, not grow and spend poorly going forward, and then grow the economy back so that we can actually maintain what we have and move people back to this province.
I want to thank you for coming and being straightforward on it. We'll wait to see what happens.
$500 with a contract negotiation. I was one of the people that was standing there and saying, oh my God, is this ethical? Well, here we are today. And when the government wasn't making their contributions to the pension plan, I'm sitting in Frederick and saying, this can't be. And here we are today. The second thing is that I'm going to retire in December. I have taken 5 years to plan for my retirement. My accountant has said to me, because I have been on disability, you will probably get a little bit more money when you are on retirement. He's now telling me, and he has contacted the government, that he really thinks I'll never be able to pay for my house. That when my mortgage comes due, I will have to go in and ask for another 20 years, because he said you are not going to have the money to pay for it. And I am 55. I've asked for my pension estimates. I asked probably a month ago for pension estimates. I've gotten nothing. I have a girlfriend in the civil service that asked on a Thursday for her pension estimates. She had them the following Tuesday. And I would like to know why we can't get the information
that other people seem to be able to get.
So have you, when did you say you retired?
I have to retire in November.
So you've actually indicated